Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question. Here's a question from Kirk in New Philadelphia, and he says, I know that fall's the best time to start a new lawn, but my backyard is a mess, and I'd like to start over this spring. Will it do as well in the spring, and when should I start?
When I lived in Central Ohio, I had some very good success doing spring planting of grass seed, but it was maybe not a huge area. It's all about keeping it watered and keeping it until it's actually gotten a chance to get established. And I was lucky, and we didn't have a May-June that turned out to be like July-August.
Right.
So if you have a little cooperation with the weather, and in my case, I do remember the date that I put the seed down. It was April 10th. When I seeded my lawn there when I lived in Central Ohio, and it did great.
And one of the things that people do need to know is you can put seed down if you maintain it, roughly misting more than watering heavily, every day, 10 and 2, keeping that surface moist. You can start grass darn near any time. But
that's correct. I had a friend that did a lawn when he moved into a house, in Central Ohio, on the 4th of July weekend. He planted it, and he had a great lawn, but he was able to keep it watered. The one thing to point out is that when you seed in the spring, that seed is going to come up slower than it would if you seed it in the fall, because the soil is warm in the fall, so it germinates a lot faster than it does in the spring, as the soil is slow to warm up. So one of the things that we think about with fall seeding, and we always say, fall is a great time to seed, just as this person who wrote the email pointed out. It's because the soil is warm when you seed, and then you've got a long time for those roots to become established before the following summer, and Mother Nature throws the hot, dry weather towards the grass.
Right. But in any event, though, either time you can get a lawn going, and almost any time when it's not bone frozen, for that matter.
Yes, and I think the other thing to point out about spring seeding is that if it were me, rather than using just a regular starter lawn food, I would use a special starter lawn food that has a weed preventer that's compatible with grass seed. The typical crabgrass prevention you put down will not allow your good grass seed to germinate. But if you use a special starter lawn food with a weed preventer that's designed to allow the new grass to grow, then you'll have a chance of preventing the crabgrass at the same time you're getting your good grass to grow.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Howard and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com